Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. AMSOIL and I are working together to make sure that you, regardless of if you are a UTV racer, a backcountry snowmobiler, supercross, arena cross racer, maybe you're a drag racer, maybe you're an ATV MX person, whatever. Our vision is that you can learn how to better market yourself and drive more value for your sponsors. So that means you might not have any sponsors at all and you're looking for that very first step to take, or you're trying to figure out how to take your program into the next step. Maybe it's a $50,000 program, maybe it's a $100,000 program. We're here to help you. We are your guides to motorsports sponsorship. Now, I want to talk a little bit about AMSOIL. Maybe you've seen it at Sturgis or the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross, or maybe you've seen them at your local track. They're all over the power sports world, and here is why. They get it. They're a bunch of gearheads. They're riders. They're racers, just like you, just like me, just like us. They're also chemists and engineers, which means they're good at making synthetic oil. Their time at the track and in the streets lets them see firsthand how tough equipment is on oil. Extreme heat, increased stress, high RPM riding, it is all conspiring to sideline your ride. Now, AMSOIL handcrafts synthetic lubricants that fight wear and resist extreme heat so that you can get the most power and best performance out of whatever you ride. Visit AMSOIL.com/sponsor to get more details. That's AMSOIL.com/sponsor. You're going to find out everything you need to know. Check out their full line of products for anything you ride. Now, our featured guest today is backcountry snowmobile icon and the man behind Tudizzle Films and Sledders 2.0, Brandon Tudizzle Cox. He also just happens to be a marketing wizard, so we're very fortunate to have him on the show. Now, before I get into his interview, there's a few more things I want to cover with you. I'd love to get your feedback. The best way to give your feedback that also drives more value for the show, meaning more visibility, is head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review. As of today, we've had over 55 5-star ratings for the show. And then whatever podcast player you use, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. That's the best way to ensure that you don't miss any of our upcoming shows. Now, next we have motorsports journalist extraordinaire Casey Cordero. And in case you missed our last episode, we had a blast learning from off-road racer Lindsay Geyser. So go back and listen to that one. Now, this episode is also sponsored by SolderWeld. They produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopToPodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing and Suspension, they're a family race team and custom suspension experts. And they also sell GSP XTV axles. Armor Kote, they simplify your cleaning process. And then Addict Industries, they are a human protection and extreme racing product company. I also want to give a quick shout out to some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK, Studboy Traction, One Stop Performance, and GSP XTV Axles. Now, the structure of this podcast is set up like a race. We'll begin with the qualifier, which is a basic intro. In Heat 1, we'll discuss Brandon's background. In Heat 2, we'll talk about sponsorship tactics and strategies. In the main event, we'll discuss mindset, and then we'll end at the finish line. That's where we're going to get some closing comments and contact info for Brandon. Without further ado, let's hop in.
We're testing your interview skills here this evening.
Exactly. All right, well, welcome everybody to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Today I'm joined by our featured guest, which is Brandon Cox. Now, I think you also go by Brandon Tudizzle. Am I saying that right? Tudizzle Cox?
Yeah, that's right. Most people probably don't even know that my name is Brandon. A lot of people just know me as Tudizzle or Dizzle or Hey Diz or yeah, it's just kind of a nickname I've always had. So
when I first wrote your name out, like when I was creating this outline, I didn't put the word Tudizzle in there, and I was like, who is this random character that I'm sending this outline to? Like, it did, even when for people listening, like, right. We're recording through Skype right now, your Skype name is Brandon Cox, not Tudizzle, and I was like, did I get the right person?
I've actually had people, we're getting together, to go ride or go snowmobile, and they're like, maybe trying to keep the group small, and they'd be like, is it okay if, me and Brandon show up? And they're like, oh, we're trying to keep it small. And they'll do wait, what? Tudizzle can't ride? Like, oh yeah, of course he can come. I'm great friends with him. I have no idea what his real name is, but
that is awesome. That's when you know you've marketed your name well, is when people
Yeah,
don't know
right?
your actual name.
There you
But,
go.
No, that's good. Well, hey, go ahead and maybe like fill in some of the gaps in the intro, because that's just a few fun little things about you, and I'm sure there's a bunch of sledders that are like, they're listening right now like, I got it. But for the other people, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, for those that don't know, I'm a backcountry free rider. I've been riding snowmobiles since about 2008, and I kind of just stumbled into the sponsored rider game by one of the first videos I made was picked up by 509, and so I kind of realized that there was a market in this industry to create original content in exchange for sponsorship and leveraging that type of stuff for marketing and partnering with other companies. So I've been doing that. I launched my own film company, a small production company, and started making feature-length movies that I released for free, promoting local riders in Colorado, and just started progressing from there to where I am now.
Oh, that's awesome. I always love hearing the story, and we'll probably talk more about this later, but how people actually started, and I loved how you just said stumbled into it, right? I mean, I felt like I did that with this podcast too. Like I like tripped and then landed into doing this podcast, and it's just amazing. Like you realize that there is this market out there. Like there's a huge market for people who don't necessarily know the right things to say to a sponsor, the right way to promote themselves. And just like this, like you probably didn't know in 2007 that like riding a snowmobile and making good content could lead to, relationships with businesses.
Right. Yeah. It was, like I said, it really was a video that I stumbled on. I kind of shot this unique angle where I had attached a camera on a stick on my helmet looking back, and no one had really been doing that. A guy up in Canada, Dave Barona, who rides for Ski-Doo, was playing around with a ski pole and kind of catching some angles like that. And I happened just to try it on a powder day, and it just really showcased the particular goggles I was wearing, which happened to be 509's new aviator goggles. So after I posted that video up, 509 saw the content and just reached out to me and was really interested in buying that content. And being really new to the sport and that kind of, marketing, that type of stuff, I didn't really understand. And I was like, oh, you could just have it. I don't really need it. I'd love for you guys to use it. And as a thank you, they sent this big, huge box full of helmets and goggles and shirts and stuff. And that was when it all kind of clicked. Like, oh, wow, there's a market for this type of stuff,
Oh, that's so cool. And you're still working with 509, correct?
Yeah, they're actually one of my main sponsors. I do a lot of their Western snow shows too, so I work the booth for them at a few shows each year, and still really good friends with the founder, Tom Delanoy, out of Spokane there, so try to maintain those relationships.
Yeah, so we're going to dive a lot deeper into that, because actually I want to spend a lot of time talking about 509 just because that's a long relationship too. So we're going to spend more time diving into that in a little bit. But I mean, outside of that, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your background, your story. So like, how'd you get into motorsports in general? It sounds like you started riding snowmobiles in like 2008, but were you involved with other things before that?
Before that, I'd always into those solo sports, and kind of had maybe like a shop sponsored level. I was really into snowboarding. In fact, I remember when I was into snowboarding, a couple guys had snowmobiles. This would have been in, 1997. I was living in Tahoe, and I was just a snowboard bum, just riding all day as much as I could. These guys had snowmobiles and use them a little bit. Now, you should come ride. And we realized, those things are so stupid. I'm going to ride they just started making parks. So I was, I'm going to be riding the park and having fun doing that, and so kind of missed the opportunity back then to get in early.
Yeah, that's funny though too. I mean, we've taken, at least me, like I've taken a lot of this stuff for granted, how far snowmobiles have come, and even just what you were talking about with the camera, like in 97, the snowmobiles were not necessarily set up for like solid mountain riding, and you probably saw like an old Scandic or whatever, they're like a workhorse sled that was up there too, but the other thing too is just the GoPro cameras. I mean, even in 2008, there wasn't that many like mounts and like applications, and social media was not as developed as it is today, so posting viral content was not like it is today. So
That's right. I actually just got kind of lucky because I did come in right at the time where no one was really posting video content. The platforms were just starting to get developed. So I did come in right at the right time, giving out free content, original content. I'd surrounded myself with a good group of writers. My friends were all very confident, accomplished writers. So I had a good group of writers around me to help me progress my own personal writing, but also to point a camera at. And it's funny, like you were saying on the GoPros, I used to have a lipstick camera. It was like a Sony.
Mm-hmm.
You'd buy it and it had a cable, and you attached it to your helmet with like duct tape, and you had the camera in your backpack, and you would turn it on, and you'd put it all away, and then you'd start riding, and that was like how we would get POV footage back then.
Yeah, that's wild. There's I think it might even be a 509 movie out there with who's that guy? He's kind of like, he's a character, kind of like a Larry Enticer character.
Turkey Reinhardt.
Yeah, Turkey Reinhardt.
Yeah.
I think it shows him taking this like 1995 Polaroid or something and taping it to his helmet.
Right. Yeah.
And man, I love that. I actually reached out to him after that video. I was like, high five, man. That was pretty awesome. But
yeah, he's a great guy. He actually did really good at the X Games. Brett Turcotte this year.
Yeah,
he's still a 509 rider and appears in their movies and stuff.
Yeah. So that was fun watching that, and I can't remember what he was riding, an old Thundercat or something. It was just
that's awesome.
Well, yeah, so that's really cool. And I also I wanted to point out something you said there, because I think it is important. We've talked about things in the show like surrounding yourself with great people, whether it's positive people or skilled people or whatever. And you said that.
Right.
You're like, I surrounded myself with good riders, very capable people early on. And I think that's important for people to be successful. If you wanna up your game, you got to up the people that you're spending your time with. So if you want to be a better snowmobiler, you got to ride with better snowmobilers and keep pushing yourself.
If you are the best snowmobiler in the group, you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
Or very few people have the ability to progress themselves to get better. I guess I shouldn't say never, but I like to be in the middle. I don't want to be the worst person in the group, obviously, but I like to be in the middle. So I'm, pushing myself, trying to keep up a little bit with someone maybe that's better than me, progressing my skills the whole time. So.
Yep. I think it's a good mindset to have.
And that goes on and off the mountain. Surround yourself with, like you were saying, positive people that are interested in influencing the industry. Those are the people that you want to be around.
Definitely. I know with doing this podcast, I've been able to learn so much about social media and marketing and promotion, and even the whole sport. I mean, when I started doing this in December of 2016, I legitimately did not know. First off, I didn't know anything about podcasting. Like, I learned that in November of 2016.
Huh.
I hadn't even really listened to that many beforehand. I think so hardly any. And then the motorsport sponsorship, I was just like, this looks cool. I love business. I love talking to people about motorsport stuff, so maybe we'll just do this thing. And I've learned so much since then. Like, I've gone to races, and I've, been basically I feel like everybody I talk to teaches me and helps me level up my game too.
There's so many nuances to it also.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's changing constantly.
Yeah, it is. That's one of the reasons why I feel like this show has been able to sustain for, I think, I'm not sure what this is going to be, 80 something, 84 or 85 or something. Whenever I end up releasing it, it's because there's even like the nuances within social media are changing a little bit, or the way companies shift their money and the way they spend money and new trends that come out, like
right.
All that stuff kind of plays into it. And I think it's good to keep current and keep fresh when we talk about it.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to kind of talk a little bit more about some of the things you're doing today as well. So you've got your film business, and like, what are you really excited about right now?
Well, I just wrapped up just a few weeks ago, kind of my big thing that I've been focusing on the last few years, and it's been really growing by leaps and bounds over the last few years, and that's my charity event, which is Spring Fling. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge outdoor charity event that I've been throwing now for about 13 years. And what we've basically done is grown from I wasn't even there the first few years. It's been going on for about 13 years. First few years I wasn't even there. As I got into snowmobile, I got invited to this kind of end of the year barbecue. And as my social media presence grew, I started inviting people and got bigger and bigger. And I realized I could channel kind of all this energy, this positive energy, into something good for the sport. And so we turned it into this charity kind of free barbecue, live music, raffle. And we've been donating each year all the proceeds to the Colorado Snowmobile Association. So we just had it last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess now, and we raised $25,000 with the help of everybody who attended there. And so that brings our total donation to $58,000 over the last 3 years to Colorado snowmobiling. So that's kind
incredible.
of my big passion project right now. Working with the Forest Service to kind of put these events together and get permitting for it, because it all takes place on their land. It takes up a lot of time, and it's grown. This year we had vendors and live music, free food. So I guess we had about 650 people attend. And this is the first week in May for snowmobiling. So that's pretty late for most people.
Yeah.
So that's what's been driving me lately.
That is phenomenal. I mean, we talked, let's see, this has been a couple episodes ago. Shelby Mahan came on. She's owns Backcountry Motorsports Media, and she races like everything and rides snowmobiles and everything. But we were talking about like preparing for a live event, and one of the things before she came on the show, she's like, should we really focus on, preparing to attend an event or preparing to put on an event? She's like, because it's totally different. And, we ended up preparing to attend the event, but like putting on an event has massive implications for sponsors and, coordination of activities and networking. I'm assuming for this event, you've got some sort of sponsor that supports that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, actually for Spring Fling, each year we have 5 title sponsors, and they actually buy into before the event. So they pay for everything that goes on at the event. They cover all the food, the live music, just the cost of everything that goes on there. And so once you do have sponsors paying for a product, there is way more pressure to make sure that it goes off very smooth and that they get their value out of that event, which is very important when you're working with sponsors.
Yeah.
So it can get intense.
Definitely. Well, I probably am going to dig into that more too once we get into to Heat 2. But in this section, I do actually want to talk a little bit more about who are some of your current sponsors right now, and maybe that even goes for the Spring Fling folks, if we could give a shout out to them. But just kind of walk us through who the people are that you're working with right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been fortunate over the years to work with some awesome companies. I work very diligently to produce for the companies I work with, so I think I have a reputation for that. So I've been, fortunate to be able to partner with some great companies. And like we already said, 509, which is probably one of my biggest sponsors, has been there since the beginning. It all started out with just a pair of goggles that I got from them, and has ballooned into, a amazing partnership. I wouldn't have a single other sponsor if it wasn't ever for 509. So
yeah,
big shout out to those guys over there. And then, of course, there's Silver Turbos, who does the turbo work on my sleds for me. They're great. So it seems like I've found a lot of small companies to work with, which kind of fits my style, I think, because I'm very hands-on and very personal. So a lot of these companies are kind of smaller, but they make great products, and I've just been fortunate to partner with them. So there's also Tom Kobza over at TKI CNC, who makes the belt drives for my snowmobile. And he's another person, I think we'll talk about it later, but where it started out as a business relationship, and now we're really good friends. Like, I see him in the off season. And if I'm ever, near, he's out of Montana. If I'm ever near there, I'm always going to stop by there. We have that personal relationship too. So it becomes very personal for me, all these sponsorships. So
definitely.
And then of course Fox, who's also a Spring Fling sponsor. I've been with them for about 7 years, and they've been really great to work with. They do all the suspension for my snowmobiles, and they've had some changes in their social media program, and it's really been neat to watch them grow themselves. They're way into social media now, so they have a whole department that does all their social media stuff. So it's been neat seeing them progress on their own program.
Yeah.
And then, not to get too long-winded, but I have BM Fab, who does the bumpers and the two-frame running boards on my sled. They're out of Minnesota, and they're another small company, just 3 guys that just bust their butts each year to make really high-quality products, and it really shows in what they do produce. And then, of course, Jesse Hopkins over at Rehab Wraps.
Yeah, yep. Jesse's been on this show, actually.
Oh, yes, he's so awesome to work with. I originally used this other company, and 509 actually started their own wrap company. So it's one of the few times I ever switched companies. I have a lot of my original sponsors, and so they had launched 509 Inc. And so I kind of jumped on board with them for a year, and then when that didn't really work out for them, I was kind of looking for a new sponsor for doing my wraps, and I'd seen some of Jesse's work, and it was really cool. So ended up reaching out to him, and we ended up talking and working out a deal for the first year, and once I proved my value, we've been working together ever since. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, if people want to know more about Jesse, I think he was on episode 33 of this show, and he actually gave tips on making your wrap as well, like tips for color choices and material choices. So I would encourage anybody to go back and listen to that episode too, just if you want to know more about Jesse or know more about wrap design.
He does a great job too. There's a lot of wrap companies out there that'll put your logo on your wrap, but he does all like the back shadowing and stuff to make all your logos pop, and he does great color palette, and so he does great work. Yeah, I definitely recommend to anybody that. And he wraps everything, from semis to helmets. Whatever it is, he can wrap it. So
exactly.
And I have a bunch of other smaller ones that help me out with product and stuff too, and they know who they are. I don't want to mention them all because I'm sure I'll forget someone else, but those are kind of the main guys that help me out with the bulk of my sponsorship each year.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. It sounds like you've got some good relationships, and then we're going to take a break here, and then we'll come back and talk more about it. But I just want to pause for a minute and thank the sponsors for this podcast. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors. And on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. It's not really the easiest thing. Anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and then also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly. So check it out. I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance. And that's why I'm going to talk to you next about bold racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension And there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually, rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important, if you're ready for that next level of performance, to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please, please, please make safety your overriding priority. Have you ever been out on the trail or at the track or in the middle of the desert and something breaks? Well, of course you have. We've all been there. But a lot of people at that point, they reach into their trusty toolbox for the duct tape or the zip ties or wrenches to fix their machine. However, there's a feeling that you get when you realize you need more than just duct tape to fix that rock chip in your radiator. That's a horrible, horrible feeling to have. And that's why I'm going to tell you next about SolderWeld's metal bonding products, specifically AMSOIL. So this product gives you a longer term fix than JB Weld, which is just going to get you back to the trailer or back to the pits. With basically the assistance of MAP gas or propane torch, you can quickly and easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum. And better yet, AMSOIL flux is the only flux in industry that cleans and decontaminates the dirty and greasy surface for you. So you don't even have to worry about that part. The AMSOIL rods are actually capable of a 30,000 PSI fix, and they're stronger than even the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. So don't let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down in the trail. Bring along some AMSOIL aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand cleaning the mud, filth, grime, goo, garbage off of my machines after I go for a ride. It's just frustrating. It takes a lot of time. That's why I'm going to talk to you about Armor Kote next. Armor Kote is designed to help prevent mud, clay, ice, and other grime from sticking to your machine. It makes the cleanup quick and easy. It makes the machine actually look fantastic, and beyond that, it smells phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it, like bubble gum or something like that. It smells great. If you want to know more about Armor Kote, visit armorkoteproducts.com, and you will see their entire product line, all the offerings. Armor Kote is also working on some new stuff. They're soon going to release a solution made for coating the helmet and visor, and also one for wheels to help prevent mud buildup for high temp areas. So make your move now. Go to armorkoteproducts.com. Make a decision that's going to allow you to shorten the amount of time that you spend cleaning so that you can increase the amount of time that you spend riding and racing. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now in Heat 2. And in Heat 2, that's when we dive a lot deeper into like the relationship building portion of sponsorship and some of the tactics, strategies, things like that. So we've already kind of started diving into some of that stuff. for you. But what I want to do is understand more about how you built some relationships, maybe the initial meetings or the initial contacts, so maybe let's go through a couple examples of that.
Okay, yeah, great. I mean, we can obviously 509's my very first sponsor, so it's real easy to start with them.
Yeah.
I had won these goggles in a contest, and as I said earlier, they had seen a video and were interested in using the video to promote their product. And once I had made contact with him, it was almost like I knew I was in. So I just nourished that relationship. I kept sending him pictures and not expecting anything in return, but just reaching out. Oh, hey, this is what I'm up to, and here's a couple pictures, or here's a little video clip. And you know what? He may have never even used anything for a long time again. And but it didn't matter. I just kept at it, kept sending him stuff, keeping, nurturing that relationship. And so I was almost, once you have your foot in the door, it's kind of up to you to nourish that relationship and, build on it by reaching out and seeing what you can do and what they're interested or what they might need, what content they might be looking for. So,
yeah, that's something that we've talked a little bit about on the show before is, sending the content. I had Zach from HMK on here.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was on, actually Tucker Mertz was on with him.
Okay.
And he, like Kirk was saying, one of the things that he likes that Tucker does is Tucker will send like basically a post that's ready to go. It's like a picture and a couple of quick comments where all Kirk has somebody that does social media. So like all the social media person really needs to do is just proofread and post.
Right.
And, that's what a lot of these companies are looking for. They're looking for content. Like they want examples of people using their product out in the field. I know that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time with MBRP on. And, I'll send them whenever I go out riding in little video clips, and maybe 1%, 5% is what they're actually going to repost on the social media. A lot of it goes into the stories. Like Insta stories are pretty popular now. It doesn't require as great of quality of content for it to be successful. But, I just send over things and thank you, or maybe they'll use them, maybe not. But that's really what these companies need is content.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Kirk, because it's also important to figure out how they want to receive the content. Because Kirk, I used to ride for H&K. Kirk's still a really good friend of mine, and he donates to Spring Fling every year. Kirk really liked to have content sent to him through a text message. So if you sent everything email, he would never look at it. If you sent them a text, within the hour he would have forwarded all, because it was just easier for him. He was on his phone. He didn't have to go over to his computer, so it was very seamless for him. So it's very important to figure out how they want to receive content as well as how to be sending it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And if you notice, like if you watch HMK, you'll see a lot of Tucker on that page, and I think it's because he's figured out what their recipe is, how to make it really simple, and obviously he makes good content too. But like that's gonna work. So if you want exposure and you want your sponsor to be happy, like get them the content they're looking for. Just like you said, if you know the delivery method that they want, even better.
Yeah, and sometimes they won't tell you. You'll just have to notice. Oh, when I send it this way, I see, or I'm sending it through Facebook message or something. They don't even look at it. Or if I'm sending it to Instagram through their DM, maybe that's the only thing they look at. I know over at 509, David McKinney, he's always on there every day on their Instagram message. So it's like, oh, if I send something that way, I see he looks at it right away. So
right. That's a good point. I don't think we've ever talked about that. I don't think we've ever talked about what is the method to get it there. So that might be something, if they have a checklist, right, for the things that they do when they're asking their sponsors what they need, that might be the question that you put on that checklist. How do you want me to get you content? Which method? Is it text? Is it email? Is it, a Dropbox?
Right, yeah. And like I know another guy, he doesn't like his phone. He doesn't carry a phone. He's old school. So he's like, oh, I never look at text. Why would you send me a text? Like, send me an email or call me.
Right.
So you got to figure out that formula for each company.
Yeah. I know. I think I am accidentally confusing to people sometimes because I use every form of communication. Like, I know
At
Jimmy
once.
Moore. Yeah, like at once. I don't even understand.
Fire.
Right. So Jimmy Moore, he's been a sponsor of this show and of Impact Fuel forever. And he's been on the show. He was episode 39 or 49. I can't remember now. I think it was 39. And either way, though, he's been one of my friends. Like, he's become one of my really good friends. And
Right.
I'll text him, and then like 3 minutes later, I'll send him a Facebook message, and then like I'll send him a message on Instagram DM, and then I'll comment on his Facebook post. Like, I don't even know how him and I can keep this communication, how it works, but it seems like we always know what we're talking about. But it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
All over. Like, now I probably need to ask him, like, am I making your life more difficult? But, that's probably a good question to ask. Well, no, that's good though. And I kind of want to go back to something you said before. You're like, yeah, I got lucky that you were producing content at a time when people weren't necessarily doing it that way. But I have a different definition of the word luck though that I want to share with you, and it's that luck is when opportunity meets hard work. So,
well, I will agree with that too.
Yeah, because like you were doing stuff, like you were paying attention to what other people are doing. You're trying to emulate that. You know, you're obviously taking time to make good content and create. I guess be a part of a really cool environment. Like obviously backcountry snowmobiling is a really cool environment. I think you probably, maybe whether it's consciously or subconsciously, recognize that not a lot of people were sharing the video content at that point on social media.
Well, what's funny was I had noticed that people were making movies.
Yeah.
So they were movie companies. There was Boondocka, there was Thunderstruck, and
Yes.
Sledneck. There was all these companies that were making content, but the only way, it wasn't really digital content yet. So the only way you were kind of ever getting to see it is if you bought a DVD.
Yeah.
And so let's say the biggest companies, maybe are selling, let's go a high note, maybe they're selling 15,000 movies. That's probably pretty high for our industry, but I don't know the exact number. But
yeah.
So I was able to make a video. So they've made a movie and they pitched it to companies. And we're going to make this movie and sell it, and we're going to sell 15,000. 15,000 people are going to see it. All of a sudden, I can make a movie and put it out, and 150,000 people were going to see it because of social media. And I saw that gap, that opportunity. So instead of trying to make movies and sell them to consumers, I would go to the companies first and say, hey, look, this is what I can do for you. I can, create this content, and we're going to get this many eyes on your logos. And it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for people listening, I want to dive into like what I meant by the word opportunity when I said when luck is when opportunity meets hard work. Opportunity is when there's a gap in a market or there's a potential for something that is unrealized. And in this case, like you saw that. Now, someone else, let's say that was 2008, correct?
Yeah, right around there in 2009.
So if Brandon would have done that in 2013, the movie might not have gone anywhere.
Exactly.
Right? 'Cause the opportunity window, it was gone. Even if you made the exact same film with the same quality and 509 saw it, it still might not have produced the same results as if it did in 2008.
Without a doubt, it would not have.
I kind of learned that concept from, there's a podcaster out there that I listen to a lot. His name is John Lee Dumas, and his podcast is called Entrepreneur on Fire, and he does one episode every single day, which is crazy. So 7 days a week he's putting on an episode. It's incredible. But he's basically saying like so many people tried to do that same thing after him, and they've had some success. But he's like, nobody's been able to emulate it. He said, and if I did that today, it wouldn't go anywhere. He's like, I would literally flop if I tried to release that same podcast in 2018. It would fail miserably, even with the quality and the time that he's put into it. It just wouldn't work. So the reason why I'm spending so much time talking about this is I want everybody out there listening to pay attention to the market, look for gaps, especially in content, and do something that, like, I can't tell you what to do because I don't know what that gap is. But if you see it, take advantage of it. Do something cool that other people haven't done, and it
Right.
could lead to big things.
Yes, if you can spot the trend, then you're golden,
Mm-hmm.
But that's the magic trick, right?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, this is hard to I guess agree with, or it feels bad saying it, but if you recognize the trend, you got to do something about it. Like, you got to take action. If you just recognize the trend, and there's tons of people out there with amazing ideas. I've got amazing ideas, but if I don't do anything about it, doesn't matter how good of an idea it is. Somebody else will do it. So if you wanna make that impact, you got to be the one that does it. You got to take action.
Yeah, you got to be. So many people are afraid to fail is the problem, and you got to be. That's a huge hurdle that a lot of people need to overcome.
Yeah.
Myself personally, it's a huge hurdle still that
yeah.
I have to face. So.
Oh yeah.
But if you don't put yourself out there, you lose 100. I forget what the saying is. Something like you lose 100% of the games that you don't play.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I don't think that's exactly it, but something like that.
Yeah, that's the point. I've definitely heard that. I think there's one like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and I actually
think
heard
it's something more like that. Yeah.
You could probably put it to anything. There's 1,000. You lose 100% of the sponsorships you don't ask for. Like, we could say that.
There was a time where I would write and get no response.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this letter that I was working on. I can remember it when I was first starting to write, and I would send it out, and no, that didn't work, or and maybe I wasn't deserve it enough. I hadn't done enough, and so I would work on myself and I'd work on that letter. And I remember by the end I had this letter that I would send out, and it listed my accomplishments, and I'd done more, as the time had progressed. But if I sent that letter out, that letter I never got a no. Once I had that letter perfected, so you kind of do work on that, your resume or and your ask letter, something that you're always kind of working on.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very good. Yeah, I think that if you do focus on really good content, really good presentation, like, you will make some connections. I know I've done some embarrassing sponsorship proposals in my past, like, especially with Impact Fuel. I'm thinking like May of 2016, I was reaching out to companies constantly, and they were horrible. Like, horrible.
Like your ask was horrible, or your responses were horrible?
My ask, yeah. The response was pretty much nothing, or like, hey, you're crazy. Thanks but no thanks. And but I get it. Like, if I look back at it now, I was like, I would not even pay one lick of attention if someone sent me this proposal. This proposal is bad.
But if you hadn't written the first one, then you wouldn't have known how to write the second one, and then the third one, and then so there is a progression. It's just like anything, you need to. It's a skill.
And actually, that was a little bit of what led to this podcast. Now that I kind of like reflect on it, I was thinking like, wow, I'm so bad at this. How do other people do it? I do remember that now, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just find out more about that. Someone will tell me. And then once I found out that someone would tell me while being recorded, and that other people had the same problem as me, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I see both sides of it with Tudizzle Films, people writing me, asking me for sponsorship and stuff. And I mean, some of them are so bad. It's like, it's like, how could you possibly sit down and write that and think, just some people just say, hey, send me free stuff.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the straight up ask. Like, hey, I want a snowmobile. There's one guy that like asks, buy me a snowmobile. I'll show you how good I am. And he, wrote to a bunch of companies, and it's like, man, that's pretty bold. But if someone bit,
yeah,
I guess,
if someone bites on that, then I want them to come to this show, and we need to talk.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was some comedy show where they wanted to film crashes or something. I don't know. Who knows what somebody's looking for? Also.
A lot of people who listen to this show, or at least have listened to multiple shows, they've heard examples like that. And I think looking back, they're like, how could anybody actually do that? But if you say that out to yourself right now, if you're like, I cannot imagine somebody doing that. That's called a rational thought. And some people are just not rational.
This is true.
Like, some people do not see an issue with that. And if you're listening to this and you have done that, it's okay. What I want you to do is sit down, pull out a piece of paper, write this down right now. I will never do that again. Just
right.
make this affirmation to yourself right now. I will never, ever do that again. Starting today, like,
learn
I'm
from
changing.
your mistake. Yes.
Yes. So it's okay if you've done it. We can all laugh about it, but it's done. Call it quits now. Let's move on to adding value to our sponsors and not just making ourselves look bad.
Exactly.
That's good. What about another relationship that you've kind of built from a sponsor?
Well, another sponsorship relationship that I'm actually no longer working with just because of circumstances would be Kirk over at HMK.
Yeah.
And he was also one of my early sponsors. I was filming with a contour camera back then, which was kind of like one of the other POV cameras.
Yep.
That they all kind of came out at the same time. So I was filming with them, and they had their own. That company had their own contest where you could submit a video, and they would pick a winner. They had their own web hosting platform.
Okay.
They were kind of trying to compete with YouTube at the time and stuff. So anyway, so I ended up with that same video that got me my 509 sponsorship. I submitted it to Contour, a little edited version, and I ended up winning their video of the year.
That's awesome.
And it was really amazing, and it was pretty incredible. I was pretty stoked. Well, the grand prize was head to toe HMK gear.
Nice.
And so I ended up getting a full set of HMK gear, and immediately followed up with a very gracious thank you letter to Kirk, and that's start building those relationships. Oh, hey, I got this guy. He's just sent me all this gear. I started sending him pictures and content, and developed a personal relationship with him as well by reaching out, sending him messages, contacting him. They're located out of Hood River, Oregon. I'm in Colorado, but I would vacation every year out that way. So I made sure if I was anywhere near him, I'm coming by. I'm going to hang out. We're going to have dinner. I'm not going to let him buy me dinner. I'm going to buy him dinner. It's going to be, I'm going to put out, I'm going to, develop this relationship. And now because 509 makes outerwear gear and they were my original sponsor, I don't work with HMK anymore, but Kirk's still a really good friend of mine. I still see him in the summer, when I'm traveling around and stuff. So it's all about developing that personal side of the relationship.
I think that's awesome, and I want to call out something you just said there that is pretty impactful, and that's the buying dinner portion. So a lot of people get kind of weirded out, gets a little awkward if you go out to dinner with, say, it's a sponsor or somebody else. It could be a job interview. I don't know. It could be a number of things, or just like a mentorship. If you offer, you can remove the awkwardness by committing ahead of time. I am going to be buying this dinner.
Right.
Remove the awkwardness. You put it out there. Hey, this one's on me. And if people complain about it, whatever, that's fine. If they really want to pay, great. Then they can still pay. But you can commit to the beginning, I am going to be paying for this dinner. This is on me, and that it removes the awkwardness from them, and it removes it from you, and it helps make that whole conversation a lot more comfortable, I guess.
And in the grand scheme of things, it is a very small investment on a future relationship you are trying to develop with this company and this individual. So it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I started doing that. I have people that I work with, mentors local to my area. So for people who don't know, I'm in the engineering world in my day job, and in leadership and management and stuff like that. So I try to surround myself with coaches and stuff like that. I will ask them, hey, would you love to meet? Dinner's lunch is on me every single time. Now sometimes they grab the bill, which is great, but lunch is on me. And if they squawk about it, I say you get the next one, and then I try to get the next one. But let's say we go out to a fancy place. Tops, if you're in Chicago, tops, you're putting on $100, right?
Right.
And if you go to an average place, maybe it's $40 or $50. Like, it's small investment when you're talking about a long-term thing. Plus just a peace of mind. Like, I don't know.
It just for me, I don't want to kick off a relationship with me wanting stuff from you.
Right.
You know, we're already it's already gonna be kind of that way anyway. Eventually, right? We're gonna have hopefully a symbiotic relationship where I'm producing a bunch of stuff for you, but let's not start it off with my handout.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, going back to HMK a little bit more too. So like I said before, Kirk was on this show, and you know he came on.
Great guy.
That was something that Tucker Mertz was the one that set it up. He was like, "Look, I would love to have Kirk on this show. I think he has a lot of value." He's like, you know, I can set it up and we'll come on together. And he did it. Like he scheduled it. Tucker did. And,
right.
You know, I liked having a conversation with Kirk when I was done. I was like, man, I actually need gear this year. I've been riding with my old 20-year-old Arctic Cat gear. And I called Kirk and I was like, dude, what should I buy? Like, I have not shopped for gear in a long time. And he spent like 20, 30 minutes on the phone with me going through like all the options for Michigan trail riding and how I can do different layers. And when it was done, I was like, sweet, man. I was like, let me look over these. I'm buying something. I just don't know what I'm going to buy yet. And he was like, whoa, hold on a minute here. He stopped. He's like, look, I like what you're doing with the podcast. I want to kind of be a part of this too. So I'm going to put you on the ambassador program for HMK. And I was like, what? I mean, I wasn't expecting that, but I also wasn't going in like seeking that, right? I was just having a conversation, and he didn't.
You were
have
just trying to buy some gear,
right? I was buying it no matter what.
Yep.
You know, I had already committed because I really liked him, and I liked the product too. So either way, it's so now I'm riding all HMK, and like I tag him like every day and everything. But either way, just another little fun tidbit on HMK.
He is an awesome guy. Did you know he's really into? Did he talk about? He's a big kiteboarder.
No, we did not get into that at all.
Yeah, so he lives right in Hood River, and he's kind of one of those guys that he's like got it figured out. Like, he's got a successful business, but he doesn't let it crush him.
Yeah,
you know, like everybody's like, how come you don't do more? You're not bigger and do it. He's like, man, I'm successful. I produce X amount of gear. I sell all this gear, and so he kind of slows down in the summer, and he just plays on that there river and kiteboards and paddle boards, and he's really into water sports too. It's really interesting guy.
And he probably comes up on this show more than like anybody else. He has so many random connections. It's
really? That's awesome.
Yeah, he keeps coming up. People are like, oh yeah, when I used to be a snowboarder, like I bought some boots from him.
Yep.
It's pretty wild. Well, you know what I want to talk about next actually is social media, because that is a big part of what you've done. I mean, for people who don't know, so you're one of the admins, or maybe the main admin. You started the Sledders 2.0 Facebook group, which is what, 55,000 members or something crazy?
Yeah, I think it's about 55,000. I started with the same guys that I do that page with. We do Mountain Sledder Swap Meet too, which is about 80,000 people.
Right, I forgot about that. So, I mean, we're talking about some serious people. I mean, most companies would they would kill themselves, spend a ton of money to get that much exposure, because groups do drive a little bit more engagement than a Facebook page does. It puts a little bit different priority, I think, in the algorithm, but
they do, and it's because of the way people can post on it.
Yeah. So,
like, if I had a company page, it kind of throws visitor posts like off to the side.
Exactly.
Into a separate kind of thing. You have to search to kind of find them. But in a group or a community page, it kind of just runs like a news feed, like a separate news feed.
Yep. So I want to know a little bit more about that, because
that's actually a closed group too. So
you
have to be invited invited into both of those pages, which helps with a lot of the trolling.
Yeah. Yep.
You can it's very easy if people are not just trying to be difficult. It's just very easy. You remove them and they can no longer see that anymore. It doesn't exist to them anymore. So
yes, that's very good. But I do want to kind of talk about how you built that, because there's people that are listening right now that can probably benefit from their own type of social media group and engagement. Now, it's probably hard nowadays to build that same level of of a group, just because Facebook has changed a little bit, but like there's other ways to do this stuff. So I kind of want to understand a little bit more about how you did build that group.
So that was another one of those see an opportunity and seize the kind of the second, because there is a page called Sledders.
Mm-hmm.
That was up and running, and it was probably around at the time, 40, 50,000 people, and it had kind of gotten a little chaotic. They were getting heavily trolled.
Mm-hmm.
It was a public page, and there was a lot of like group attacks going on it. So there was kind of this weird feeling where it was like a lot of people just being kind of smart alecks and kind of attacking each other and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of just following along what was going on. There happened to be this other page called AK Snowmobilers or Snow Sledders or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
something along that line. And it was a smaller group, about 500 people. And the one guy who started it had gotten in an argument with a couple of its members and started kind of heavily moderating that page or that group and deleting a bunch of people's posts. And so one of the guys is like, I'm going to start AK Sledders 2.0. And in one day, the entire group shifted over.
Oh, really?
To this other page. It was really weird. It was like, 450 out of 500 people shifted over. So I was like, oh, you know what? I should just do something like that because this Sledders page is kind of getting a little chaotic. And I figured maybe, 200 or 300 of my friends will jump over and we can have a place to kind of shoot the breeze online privately.
Yeah.
Because it's a closed group. And so I just did it that day. And that day, I think about 10,000 people jumped over.
Really?
Yeah. And in fact, the guy,
holy cow.
His name's guy that started Sledders got real upset and thought I was trying to and I get it. I understand, but it really wasn't anything to do with him.
Yeah.
It just was kind of, I saw the community being kind of twisted and something I didn't like. So I just decided to jump over here and see what happened. And it just ended up growing and growing. And the key was really to have it be a closed group and in the beginning very heavily moderated.
Yeah.
So if anybody kind of did something wrong or out of line, we just removed them from the group immediately.
Right.
And it became quickly known that, oh man, if you're going to be a jerk to someone or if you're just going to be an internet troll in this group, it's not going to work out for you.
Right.
And so that kind of gave it a little bit, so I think my name being as the creator gave it a little bit of a good reputation to start with. And then being kind of aggressive in the beginning, I basically don't even moderate that group anymore. I mean, it kind of runs itself now, which is amazing for how many people are in there.
Yeah, that is awesome. I worry about that sometimes when I post on bigger groups like that because I'm active on both Sledders and Sledders 2.0, and I think there's a 3.0 now as well.
There's a bunch of them. A bunch of people try to do similar things. Like you said, you have to be there in that second. Like it didn't work a week later. Right,
exactly.
Like it worked that one day.
Right. But yeah, I worry about that sometimes when I make a post. I'm like, who is gonna just tear me apart? And about nothing, like who is going to make me feel bad for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, I've never had that in 2.0 for sure. I don't even think I've had it in the other one, but either way.
No, and they're really good. I'm active on both pages. And actually, I don't even see them as like, I look at Facebook as one page. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't look at them as all these subpages. They kind of come through my news feed and my notifications. I don't even pay attention to what exactly I'm jumping into half the time.
That's a very good point. So what year was it when you did that? Do you remember?
It's only in October. It'll be 2 years.
Okay. So that would have been 2016 then, October 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's wild.
On like Halloween, like I was at home. I remember I was at home. It was like Halloween. Yeah. And I started the new group, and I took my kids trick or treating. And so, I came back a couple hours later. There was already like 5,000 people in the group. It was really weird. I was like, "Whoa, what happened?"
Right. Wow. I could not imagine that.
And I have a bunch of pages.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I mean, I probably, I have the Tudizzle Films page.
Yes, I knew about that.
I have the Mountain Sledder Swap Meets. Yep. I have Sledders 2.0. I have some parody pages out there that are that people probably don't even know they're me. That kind of make fun of the industry, even myself at times.
That's awesome.
I also have a marketing business where I run people's social media accounts. So I have 3 or 4 companies that I run that are snowmobile specific that I run their social media too. So.
Wow. So you know what you're talking about. I mean, I could tell when I first started talking to you, like the way you spoke about marketing and content creation, and I was like, there's more to it. There's more to this guy here that I gotta peel back the onion layers. Well, that's cool, man. This is just a selfish curiosity here. What kind of notifications do you get? I mean, is it just like unreal?
Oh, they're all turned off.
I mean, I don't know how you could manage any sort of notification with that volume. I mean, most posts on like Sledders alone is probably would destroy your phone.
I don't even have notifications turned on for most things. Just the business pages that I work with.
Right.
Well, that's it. So.
Wow, that's cool though.
No notifications. In fact, we do some things where we mess with people. I don't know if we did these contests over this year, and it was like it was for Thunderstruck Films, and it's like tag Jim Phelan in the comments to enter this contest, and he has his notifications on, and I knew that, and so he had like 1,200 notifications.
That is awesome.
Within 2 hours or something like that. He's like, my phone died. Like
that is awesome. I didn't actually, or I don't remember who this was, but it was maybe it was a Kardashian, one of the 20 Kardashians that are out there. And it was some video that my wife showed me. It was like the Kardashian, one of them turned on their notifications for their phone.
Oh, right.
And just set it down, and it was like, because they're talking about millions of followers there.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't imagine that, but I struggle to keep up with the very few followers that I have, and it's crazy. But
the key is to set up the automated responses too, on your Facebook if you do have a company page.
Yes. So
a lot of people don't do that.
What you mean from the messenger standpoint?
Yeah. So if someone does send me a message directly to me, it'll auto respond to them. Maybe send me an email, or if you need to get a hold of me, it's emergency. Here's other contact information, not waiting for me to. Because some people think that you are on Facebook every second.
Right.
And it's like, I sent you this message yesterday. I'm like, well, I didn't look at my messages today.
That's a good point too. And there's a lot of people who listen to this. They have built up a pretty solid social media. So if you're having trouble managing some of these things, definitely leverage some of the automated response systems.
Yeah,
that's good. Plus, I think it helps turn on a little badge, right, that says you're more responsive to messages.
Oh yeah, it does. It does increase your response rate.
Yeah.
I don't know what that value is, but
yeah, I don't know either. It looks fun. Little green little check mark or whatever it is. What does this do for your sponsors? So I'm thinking 2016. So you were working with 509 still at that point, or you obviously are still right now. But how do they react to something when you tell them, hey, guess what, guys? I now have access to another 10,000 people, and it's been one day.
There is opportunity to kind of leverage that, like sell marketing on those pages and stuff, but it's something I really shy away from a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what's cool about it, is there aren't any ads in there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
A bunch of, like on the Sledders page, sometimes they partner with companies, and then all of a sudden you're getting flooded with these kind of ads.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I get that everywhere else already, So.
Yeah.
But I definitely give 509 access to those pages, and then they know that I have it, and I can leverage that when I'm talking about sponsorship.
And I imagine that's probably a good spot for a giveaway too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think
we definitely do giveaways on there, and you know what? I try to shy away from the giveaways that are designed to drive your page's likes and stuff.
Yeah.
Or I try to just say, hey, if I'm going to do a giveaway, I'm just going to give it away. Pick a number between 1 and 2,000. Whoever picks it first wins.
That's awesome.
That way anybody can participate. There's no
There's no negative
barrier.
consequences or barrier.
Yeah, there's no barrier. They don't have to have a special picture of them doing a wheelie, or a lot of those do show me your favorite wheelie contest or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's no barrier to entry, and I get great response with those. The most entries you'll ever get in a contest.
Have you ever read Gary Vaynerchuk's jab, 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 right hook?
No, I haven't.
Man, you sound a lot like him in the way you're proposing some of the things. So what he would refer that you're doing is called jabbing. So jabbing is like content creation and engagement. It's not selling. It's purely just getting people excited about a brand.
Right. Yes.
Right hook is where you come in and you're like, all right, now I actually want you to do something. I've built some trust. I've built a relationship. Hey, can you buy like a goggle from 509? That'd be great.
Right.
However it is. And that sounds pretty phenomenal. And that's something that I've been trying to learn more about too. Even with the podcast, I know I mess it up all the time. Where I'll be like, download. And is that really I don't know. Should I just be spending more time saying, here's some amazing people and you should,
right? I
don't know, promoting the experience more. But either way, that's stuff that I think anybody can learn from and get better from is things just like what you just talked about there. Like, why do we need to do anything special with the giveaway? The point of the giveaway is to give something away and make people happy and excited, promote some engagement. Why use it for anything else?
Exactly. I've often referred to social media as like the local bar. Mm-hmm. All right. If you're one of the guys that hangs out in the local bar every day and you're hanging out and chit chatting and you're friends with all these guys, then you all of a sudden you have a product to sell. They're more likely to buy it from someone that's hanging out in the local bar with them.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a guy that comes by and pops your head and goes, "Hey, look, I'm selling this widget." They look over and like, "Who's that guy? Why would I buy a widget from him? My buddy right here is selling better widgets." Yeah. So if you're not showing up to the bar, you're never going to make sales on social media. So you got to show up and with regular original content. I guess as you were saying by that book, you got to get in there and jab, jab, jab.
Yeah.
And then that way, when you come in with your sale later, you're successful. Your right hook lands solid.
Man, that's good stuff. Well, perfect. We're going to kind of close things out right now. I'm going to head in the finish line. I think we could sit here for days talking about this stuff. And we're definitely going to have to catch up in the future, but it's time to wrap up right now. So if you had to leave the audience with one piece of advice, if they forgot everything else that we talked about today and just remember one little piece, what would that piece be?
Well, I think in this day and age, when there's an overload of content getting thrown out there into the ether, that it's really important to just be yourself. Because if you do what you think's right and you do you, nobody else will be able to do the exact same thing that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So just be original, get out there, create original content, have confidence in yourself, and just keep grinding.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. What is the best way, if people are listening, that they connect with you?
It's Tudizzle, which is Tudizzle. That's my nickname and my username on all my social media platforms, which is just basically Instagram and Facebook. Mm-hmm. So if you just Google or you can Google Tudizzle, and there are hundreds of pages of awesome video content that you can check out too.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your advice, share your background. You got a lot of experience in this business. And I love that we got into some of the things around, your events and the relationships you've built and, the social media piece, talking about opportunity and luck. Great stuff. But like I said, we got to wrap things up. So I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Right on. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. So we have Casey Cordero coming up next. He's a motorsports journalist, and he has really learn the ins and outs of this industry, so he brings a ton of value to the show. Also, head over to iTunes, leave a rating review. That would be great. If you have any questions or guest recommendations, go ahead and contact me through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Just shoot me a quick note, and I'll follow up with you. And while you're over there, just make sure you're giving us a little bit of follow. So, especially with Facebook. So if you're following us on Facebook, you're going to have access to our live shows. Most recently, we had Jeff Vanistal on June 4th, and the audio version of that is actually available now via the regular podcast. But definitely head over there. We do 2 live episodes each month, and we love to bring guests on and talk about some specific topics. And then you can get a Q&A session as well. So if you're there for the live show, you can actually type in your questions, and we can answer them with the guest. To get some insider access and upcoming guests, go ahead and check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. And the special thanks goes out to our sponsors, AMSOIL, Armor Kote, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to give another shout out to some of our other partners, including GSP, XTV Axles, MBRP, HMK, USA, Stud Boy Traction, and One Stop Performance. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.